All right, team, good afternoon. We continue along with the incredible Michelle Cawthorn. Let's give her a round of applause. We stand here sort of at the centre of this exhibition with these beautiful works here. One of the things that we've been talking today a lot about is, the sort of labour of making work, right? Sometimes people ascribe kind of value to work by the amount of kind of labour involved in producing it. These particular works have this incredible kind of detail that's not immediately viewable, from a distance. And as the closer you get, and if you haven't done so, I'd encourage you to come in close and have a look at them. The closer you get, you see this incredible kind of detail. Michelle, can you talk us through the process of these works, and in particular that kind of meditative kind of work of making the detail?
Yeah, sure. Hopefully you can all hear me.
Yeah, we might need to use our teacher voices.
Our teacher voices, yeah. I think yours might be a little bit bigger than mine. Welcome everyone, hello. So to talk a little bit about my process, many years ago in my practice I was looking for a way to try and access memory. So a lot of my practice is drawn from or utilises the creative resource that is our memory. So memory is very mercurial, it's itself a very creative construct. We all think we understand what memory is, and memory in fact is very mercurial. So as I was saying, about a decade ago I really started looking back into how we could use memory as a kind of a creative resource, and I needed to find ways to access it. And often when you think about memory in your own life, there's often kind of key moments or key things that will often recur, but I was looking for the things around that. I was looking for the things that were harder to dredge up, to pull from those places inside your mind that can get lost. And one of the ways I discovered I could do that was through this meditative mark making process. So through that repetition, it does create a very meditative flow state, and I have found over the years that by being able to really fall into that space, I can pull up memory, or I can engage with memory, or I can engage with things long forgotten, and then use that or harness that in my practice as a source of like a kind of kicking off point towards a body of work. Sometimes it'll be around a specific work, but that particular mark is the way I access that. So that's why it forms such a foundational part of my practice.
And do those bodies of work link back to each other? Are you also looking at not only sort of personal memory or kind of life memory, but also looking at the memory of series, the memories of work? Like, do those series and those works have a life unto themselves as well?
Yeah, they do. I think that's a really good way of putting it. While they are their own body of work, sort of separate, they are all ultimately linked and linked back onto themselves. So, for instance, with this body of work here, I had finished a project which was dealing a lot with place and the notion of identity that is formed through place. So I was looking at both a childhood place and where I live now here in the Sutherland Shire, and how I could link those two things. And coming out of that body of work, I kind of felt like I had answered that question for now, and I was looking to try and find a way to move into another space. This particular body of work, so these three form part of a larger body of work where I was really struggling creatively. And this happens from time to time with artists where they've had a really been dealing with something, and then all of a sudden they hit this kind of a spell where you could kind of like call it a creative block. And it really started to panic me in my studio. I had commitments to my gallery. I show with Olsen Gallery in Wallara, and I was a year out from a show and I thought, I'm just not going to make this happen somehow or other. I don't know where to go from here. And I was using the mark making in my usual ways and it wasn't working for me to kind of pull up that creative impetus that I usually work with. So early on, when I first left school, I studied architecture for a couple of years. I abandoned that for art. And so in my studio, I started to use the grid. You can kind of see underneath here is a kind of a very simple grid form to start putting that meditative mark over. So without having to kind of think more of a kind of a conceptual rationale, I started more with a technical rationale for the show. And so this is how this body of work devolved. And once I had this structure to hang the mark on, if you like, the meaning, the reason, the understanding of the body of work started to flow from there. So it kind of unlocked a creative block, if you like, and then this show evolved. So, yeah.
And it's something that we've been talking a lot about today, that practice, and we talk about, you know, an artist's practice, right? And often a daily practice becomes so intrinsically linked with your life, right? Like it becomes, so it's not like you live life and then you go to the studio and it's like life stops and then you go back to the thing. It's so much part of the way that you process life, right?
Yep.
And particularly stuff like that where it's, you know, it's long kind of hours, meditative stuff. It's not like you're like, put the pen there, move it there, put the pen there, move it there. You're thinking about what you need from the grocery store, what, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Definitely not doing that.
Yeah, but no, but you might be thinking about, you know, childhood memories. You might be thinking about, you know, like whatever the thing might be. So it becomes part of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really entwined. I mean, I can't imagine not doing this. And it's from this that I get to think about or to re-examine aspects of not just my life, but the way my life interweaves with other people in my world and other aspects of where I live and all of those sorts of things. So while there is that self-referential aspect to the work, I'm really dealing with more of those kind of universal human condition of, you know, like the body work I'm currently doing now, I've got a show next month. It's to do with familial relationships and the idea of loss and the idea of longing. This, as I said, was more about getting back to a place. Previous shows have had to do with how place forms us. So while they're personal, they're also universal. So, you know, and when I'm in that studio space and I'm using, I'm making that mark and I'm able to sort of sit and fold into that, those things are becoming apparent and I'm seeing how those patterns form and where they interlink and so forth. So I'm definitely not thinking about groceries.
No, grocery stores, yeah. But what's interesting too is that the viewer also animates the work because you have this kind of thing and this kind of memory, but we bring our own kind of, you know, and even just looking at forms or shapes that might remind you of, you know, something from your past or whatever. And that's the thing where that is animated. So yeah, as I said up front, if you haven't had a chance to come and look at the incredible detail, please do. Please join me in thanking the incredible Michelle Cawthorn.